Hello and welcome to UNtracing Trauma, episode 4. I have on Ben, or Benjamin, however you prefer to go by, Thefreshkingbanjamin, and we are going to discuss some things that are hopefully not too terribly traumatic. Don't want to get demonetized in the first 15 seconds. But let's just start that with a trigger warning, because I did kind of forget to do that a couple episodes ago. Trigger warning, this is a podcast about religious past and how people have grown from that, how they've escaped that trauma or how they're currently processing that and how they're healing, so that we help other people from their stories will also learn how to accept themselves and be able to use that in their lives. So yes, there are things, but it's going to be more positive than not. Just be warned. We're going to be chatting back and forth live, so we don't know what's going to come out in terms of triggers, but it's cool. Okay, first things first, I want to just cover a couple channel things. We are now available on all the podcast platforms, so the audio version of this will be available. It's going to be, Spotify, Apple, all the things. And yeah, we will be doing questions and answers for the live stream at the end. But now let's just go ahead and get started with Ben. Hi, Ben. Thank you again for joining.
Hey, my Lord and Savior.
Oh,
I'm so happy. I'm so happy to finally meet you.
It's been 2,000 years and people just don't ask the right questions of like, where are you?
We've
California?
been waiting, actually. I have a whole group of people in the backcountry of nowhere, Wyoming, who have been waiting for you for thousands of years.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm assuming this is going to be some of the people we're talking about. But
Probably, yeah, that's my family.
Oh, the family. Oh, geez. Okay, so I mean, I know just from watching your TikToks and how I found you that you have, let's say, a culty kind of background.
Yeah,
if we can say that. You go ahead and say it in your own words.
I say it regularly. Yeah. So
okay.
I grew up in kind of really deep in the Mormon cult. So Mormonism as a whole, right, is this thing that was created by Joseph Smith like 200 years ago. And it's kind of splintered as the years have gone on. And my family ended up in kind of one of the more extreme groups where they believe in things like polygamy. They're very doomsday, right? So I grew up sort of expecting that you were coming back actually by the time I was 25, and you didn't. And so that meant that I had to like figure some shit out. I had to decide what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Anyway, so I grew up on a little tiny ranch in Wyoming. There was like a small group of very, very righteous Mormon polygamists. And we were just waiting for the end.
Okay.
And then I left that when I was about 20. My parents decided that they wanted a lawyer in the family, which should have been like a red flag.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If you're
They're like, hey, bye, please go get law degrees now.
Yeah. If you're like, we need a lawyer and it should be our kid. Like, you got some stuff. But I was like, I'll go do it. So, I mean, I've read books. I can probably do a lawyer thing. And
Sure.
So they sent me to college, and I just kind of stayed away. Like the world that I entered was, it was interesting because I'm kind of condensing the story pretty dramatically, but the gist of it was that when I was sort of raised to believe that everyone who wasn't part of our group, right, this is very culty, was wicked and dangerous and like not okay, right? They were bad. And that is not what I found.
What?
Like when I went out and started talking to people, I was like, these people are fucking great.
Isn't that crazy? And it's something that we see even in the larger religions, I would say, not even just the cult type religions, where it's very much the in-group versus the out-group, and like how scary these others are. And that's why you see demonization of gay people and trans people and just anyone that they can't use, race anymore. Or I mean, they do, but they can't use it in the same way as they used to. But anything that's different, they're going to be like, oh, they are so scary and they are evil and the devil has their grips on them. And then you actually start meeting these people that you've been sheltered from, and you realize, wait, is it us who are the bad ones?
Hold on, are we the wicked ones?
Am I the problem? Is it me?
I a bad person? No, it's totally.
Which is not to say that religious people are bad inherently. It's just enough to make you question what's going on here.
Well, and to me, I don't even know if it's a question of religion necessarily, because I think that there's so much value in the myths that humans create, right? The stories that we tell, I think are really beautiful and really profound and really like just very much a part of who we are as humans. But then some people, they want to grab onto those, and then they want to use those to control other people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of the best ways that we know to control people is to make them afraid of something that they don't understand. And it's even better if it's something that they don't understand and will probably never meet.
Right?
Right. If
they did not see the internet coming.
They did not.
It really changed the structure of everything, didn't it?
It really did. It really did. And I feel really grateful in my life that I've been able to just have opportunities to bump up against people who are so different from me, and to feel to feel a safety in that, right? To actually feel an acceptance and like that the other is not dangerous. The other is me. They are me. We are all.
Yeah,
and
every person is other from other people.
Right.
Like, that's how people work. That's how people
works. That's how people do. And so I think it's such a fun time that we're living in right now, because like the internet and so many things have broken down a lot of the barriers that used to keep us separate from each other. And I don't know, I have an insane belief in humanity's ability to experience themselves into something better. And
I think that's beautiful. I don't know if I can have that same optimism in this particular time, but
it's a little dark right now, but don't worry.
Dark right now. But what I'm excited for, and it's interesting because I just said like they didn't see the internet coming, and that revolutionizes people bumping into each other, like you said. But it's also, they still slightly learned how to adapt with the times and weaponize it in its own way, which is very interesting, because now instead of making like deadlines and like this is happening on XYZ date, or the Bible says this thing, when you look at it, they still can spread misinformation that could be fact checked like this.
Right.
They've gotten good at just the way that they voice it. I'm off topic, but like it reminds me of those accounts on TikTok that get like 1 million likes for saying something ludicrous that's been proven 1 billion times over, like, oh, they found an entire chariot in the sea. And it's like, that was proven the week after Ron Wyatt said it in the 80s, that was like bullshit. So where are you, and how, boom, no one checks anything. We got 1 million likes like that.
I am like endlessly delighted and a little horrified at our species' ability to just believe anything.
Yeah.
Like
it's
whatever
talent.
It's pretty, I mean, it's like the source of our greatest strength, right? Imagination, the ability to believe and to see things that are not like, I'm sitting in a tower right now, right? I'm in the sky like a fucking god, right? That's not something that humans could do until we were like, hey, you know what would be cool is if we could like get a house, but like we could get it up there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's our ability to do that. And then it's also our ability to be like, and did you hear about the fill in the blank, the moon landing?
And then we play like ad libs and just build on top of each other, which is actually a good, what do you say in comedy, Mr. Comedian? A good segue. Question. So building on top of each other, you mentioned that you were in obviously a more fundamentalist version of Mormon or LDS. And I was wondering, would that be the FLDS? Because sometimes, or I think I just found out recently that even though, say, they're a separate group who believes in polygamy and assignment and all these things, that's not technically always FLDS, because that's Warren Jeff's thing is FLDS.
Yeah, so
there's other fundamentalist
there are other fundamentalist sects. Yeah.
Okay.
So the term fundamentalist Mormon, or it can kind of be broadly applied to any group in Mormonism that that is trying to like adhere to the fundamentals of more. So they'll go back to like what Joseph Smith said and what Brigham Young said,
right?
Which are usually terrible, right?
Right.
If you can imagine the worst parts of like white male privilege.
Let's listen to the white male pedophile,
America, right?
Racist in the 1800s who was stealing
like,
money from people.
Let's go to the guy that the rest of America kicked out.
Sounds great. Let's get back to the basics.
Back to the basics. So that's like fundamentalist Mormon. But the FLDS Church, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is a specific organization that's run or was run by Warren Jeffs. I think he's still trying to run it in jail.
Running it from prison.
It's hard to be a prophet and be in jail. It would have been better for his prophet brand if he'd been killed. I
think it's right on brand. Joseph Smith was running shit from jail as well. So
he did end up in jail quite often.
It might make him more of a real prophet.
I actually believe in him more now. But my family was part of something called the Apostolic United Brethren.
I'm going to be writing this down just because I think it's mad interesting. Apostolic United Brethren.
United Brethren. So obviously women are a big deal in this organization. Like equally heard. I mean, really? It's right in the title, right? Like brethren.
Oh, you're being sarcastic.
The whole church is named after some of them.
Oh my God. Why did I believe you? I was like, that is so different than all the other extremists or fundamentalists.
No. Very much not. And so that's probably the like the second most well known. Like I don't know if you've seen the show Sister Wives on TLC.
Mm-hmm.
But that family that's actually my uncle. Cody's my uncle.
Oh. Yeah. But I've only seen one episode, but I know some deconstruction girlies who are obsessed with that show just because the drama.
Oh my God. I have also only seen one episode. And I was like, I can't even.
I bet, especially if it's your uncle and I left that life behind already. I think that's probably like a
no. But they came from the AUB. So the Apostolic United Brethren is often shortened to AUB. We called it on the inside, though. We called it the work.
The work.
Yeah.
Ooh, mysterious.
Mysterious. Very important. The article is really important. It's not a work, it's the work.
Okay. And is that okay? So when it comes to polygamy, and this again, going off information that used to be in my head and now it's not, there's also like a code phrase for that as well. What is that called? Like the assigning or the revelation that you follow?
Yeah, so it depends on the sect. So some sects will they'll assign wives. They'll be like, God has come to me and you're going to marry this one. In the AUB, it's a little, there's more freedom, definitely. And there's a lot of social pressures that kind of make things go a certain way, right? So like, nobody like freaked out that much when I left. Because we got enough guys.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Like, but if
I thought they meant like, oh, we knew that one was gonna fall. He's weak-willed.
They were like, this guy. Am I right? That guy has been bibbing on the wine the whole time. No, so it's just easier for men to leave, right? Because there's
Oh yeah.
they want to keep
Well, because they're not property as
they're not,
compared to the
yeah,
women.
it turns out it's easier to get out. And assigning, so but what will often happen is that even though like the girls will be given a choice, but it's kind of like uh you're sort of groomed your whole life to kind of believe that this is the right way to do it, and that
Yeah.
it's actually like, I would hear all the time, I would hear people say to young girls, it's actually better to be a second or a third wife, because you get, what they would say is, you get a better man.
Hmm. I've seen some of Big Love, and I remember an exact conversation like that, being like, I did all this work building this family. Now you can just come in and take care of the children.
Right.
You got the easy part.
Got the easy part, bitch. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of, and so you have in that world, in the AUB, I don't know of any examples in the AUB of people, of girls being married against their will at very young ages,
But
right?
again, well,
Right,
what
but
does that mean?
it's also like, so as an example, right, when I was still like in the sect,
Hmm.
the leader of the group, the prophet, the most important man in the entire world, was a guy named Owen Allred,
Oh,
and
no.
we called him Brother Owen, and it kind of became a big deal. Like he had a revelation, basically, right? He said that the AUB was not going to marry anyone who was not 18.
Oh, oh, keeping it illegal ish.
Right. Right. Which is, I mean, when you're in the world that exists in,
That's radical.
that's fucking big.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Thank
Wow.
you for doing the bare minimum. Like, the bar is so low, but you were right there, right?
Question on him: is he still the prophet?
No. He died a while ago. He
Oh,
was replaced by a man named Lemoyne Jensen,
okay.
who was then replaced by a guy named this is after I'd left, so I think his name was Lynn Thompson.
You're not that old though. How is there so much turnover in these very permanent people,
Well,
very prophety people?
yeah, well, Satan actually really attacks you when you become prophet. Like, he just fucking comes for you,
Full on war. Yeah, that makes
full on
sense.
war
You're the
against you.
general.
Right. Like, you're the most important guy. Like, Satan's got tons of demons that he's just going to send
Okay.
straight at you. So yeah,
Yeah.
it rolls over pretty fast. And sometimes when Satan attacks you with your demons, this is what happened with Lynn Thompson, is that you end up kind of molesting some of your kids, and then that kind of blows a hole in your whole thing, and then you die.
And they don't see that as a problem with the system. Obviously, it was
No,
Satan,
right.
and he succumbed to Satan. It's not
He's
because
insane.
the entire system is built around making that very easy.
Right.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
because the system was built by a predator. Like Joseph Smith, fucking predator, right? So that's like what he was. And so he built a thing, and then it's just it's actually pretty rampant in Mormonism. Mormonism, I think, breeds a lot of really, really unhealthy behaviors.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I think especially in the men,
Oh
because
yeah.
if you kind of tell, I mean, if you tell a teenage boy, hey, you get to have the priesthood, which is the power of God, and the girls don't.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when you feel feelings in your body, that's God talking to you. And you put that program into any 15-year-old boy's head, that kid is fucked. Right?
It's like I want to say it's like reverse purity culture, whereas like in purity culture in evangelical spaces, they're like, oh, those feelings are all your sin. That's all from Adam. Like, ignore those, stuff those down as much as possible. God would never do that until, like, after your marriage night and a priest has met with you and confirms that this is going to be good and you have some
Right.
counseling, and then you're like, yeah, now we have church sanctioned sex,
Which is the
feelings.
hottest sex.
Hottest.
So
And they're flipping that narrative on the head and being like, no, as soon as you feel horny, it's because God's commanded you to procreate and you need to run with that.
right. And you need to often go. So this is a pretty common thing in Mormonism, is that this is the weakest game, right? Weakest game ever. But it's a really common play that Mormon boys will do at college. They'll be like, God told me that we're supposed to get married.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's common too. That's common in all religions.
It's like,
I had an idea. I don't know what the feeling was, but I think it's God.
I think it's God. No, you're just horny. That's what's happening.
That reminds me, I know, again, like I put an explicit warning, I think, on it, but like it reminds me of Bo Burnham's section in the Left Brain, Right Brain skit where he's like, there's something about her, I can't describe it. And then he's all tits.
Yeah. And what's unfortunate, I think, about that just that whole narrative, that whole system, is that it takes something that is very human, right, and very fun and very creative and like an essential part of our existence, and it weaponizes it, right? It turns it into something that is that's harmful.
Plundering.
Yeah. And I don't like it. It makes me mad.
You shouldn't like that.
One of the things I don't like religion for.
Yeah. Well, so going back to your days, were you on like an insulated compound, or was this more like an integrated, you're in the suburbs hiding kind of situation?
No, so I grew up on a ranch that was like 5 miles outside of the largest town that was there, which was 2,300 people.
Oh.
And it was my dad and his wives and his dad and his wives, and then kind of some extended family sometimes. And that was kind of like our home base, right? And that's where I was there basically from the time I was I think I moved there when I was like 3. Okay. And I left when I was 18. So for most of my life, that was my world. I didn't go to we didn't attend school.
Wow.
We like go into town sometimes to
like supplies or whatever.
Supplies, to go get out to wait for the next round.
So basically your whole branch was limited to like your family and extended family then.
Yeah, my entire world until about the time I was 10. And when I was 10, a couple of other polygamous families from outside moved to Wyoming too. And so it kind of like world doubled. So instead of like 30 people in my world, and now there were like 60.
Which, fun fact, is also now double the population of Wyoming overall.
Overall, right. They did it. They actually increased the population. Polygamists actually run that state now.
Really?
Yeah. That's not true, but my uncle did run for the legislature and almost they probably could. I mean, there aren't
a lot of people. But okay, so here's the burning question we all need to know. So your dad has multiple wives, and you said it's pretty insulated to just about 20 of your family and extended family members. I'm picturing like Fred Phelps in his Baptist church. How are you finding wives? Where are the wives coming from?
So we
can't marry your sisters, right?
No.
Right? Okay, good.
I mean, in Mormonism, it's like if you marry a third or fourth cousin, that's pretty common. But usually not sisters. That was just for Adam and Eve's kids.
And Lot.
And
Noah.
And Noah. God actually did that a lot.
There's a lot of that, yeah.
It's odd how into that God. You should maybe talk to him about that.
I'll call him about it, but honestly, you can't talk people out of fetishes. I've tried. It's wired.
No, so right, we're kind of like this small community, but there's a larger congregation down in Utah, right? So the headquarters of the AUB is down in Utah. So we would go down there like a couple times a year, and it was sort of expected, like that was kind of where you would go.
The wife shopping time.
Go wife shopping, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Go wife shopping in Utah.
Well, I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. I'm kind of just like moot about that.
There aren't a lot of great ways to feel about that whole system.
I'm like, yay, it's not extended family, but like you're literally going to purchase women with your status as a man. Okay, so you left at 18, but like, were you prepared to do that? Like, where were you at in your teenage headspace? Were you like, now?
No, so I didn't have a social security number. So when I left, I had to get one. So I like went to the court and I was like,
wow,
hey guys, can I get a social security number? And they're like, why don't you have one? And I'm like, because my parents didn't sign the form. And they were like, okay, cool. And I was like, sweet, I'm glad.
That's it? Oh my God. I was gonna say, yeah, that's definitely a white person thing right there.
Yeah,
because I feel like there should have been a lot more questions like, you were raised where? In a polygamy who?
There should have been a number of questions, yeah. But so it was, I mean, it was profoundly disorienting, right? Like I grew up in a world.
1 second. That one's gonna annoy me, so we're just gonna put that out there. I want to talk about like what's the word I'm looking for? Blocked. But no, the word I was looking for is dog whistles. They think that's like a super clever dog whistle because we're talking 90s slang, and the young gays probably don't know what that is anymore, but not appropriate. Wow, I'm gay. Okay, we get it. Let's keep on moving back into your story.
Asshole. Yeah, so the coming out into the world was really disorienting because I grew up in a world where this is what I thought until I was like I left the compound when I was 18 and I left the belief system when I was 20. So until the first 20 years of my life, the world that I existed in was the earth is 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
Jesus is coming back probably tomorrow. The Mormons are the most righteous people on the entire face of the earth.
They told me that last Sunday when they visited.
Yeah, they're really great at it, actually. They're so righteous. They're so righteous and so happy.
Oh my God, they're so happy.
Just want to go and tell everyone about how righteous and happy they are. Yeah. Which is what you do when you're righteous and happy, right? Like when I'm feeling righteous and happy, what I like to do is go knock on people's doors and be like, do you want to be righteous and happy with me? That's what I like to do when I'm feeling good about myself, is go fuck up other people's days.
Hey, do it. I mean, like, yeah, I kind of do that. Like, I feel happy to be like gay and out and proud, and therefore we have pride. So, like, it's a thing.
Yeah, but
I like to share happiness.
I went to my first pride a year ago.
Ooh, we need to talk about that.
And what I'll just say that never in my life has a gay person knocked on my door.
No, yeah, it's never at your door though. No.
That is never.
We should start.
You should actually. I think that would be like, let's compete with them, man.
Oh my God. I'll make little JeGaysus tracks and like people can just get them from my website and then like show up at people's doors. But like, have you heard about JeGaysus?
Oh my God.
I'm here to promote gay. Just
that
gay,
would be
all of gay.
That would be hilarious. We could do that. We could dress up as Mormon missionaries, gay Mormon missionaries, and go invite people.
I smell a YouTube channel coming. It would be glorious.
Oh, that'd be hysterical.
Okay, wait, off topic. Sorry. Back in. So you were 18 off the reserve, but you were still in the religion until you're 20. So was that because you were really in it, or were you already like physically in, mentally out? How was this deconstruction for you working those 2 years?
Mormonism is such a difficult thing to get to think you're way out of.
Wait,
So,
before you answer that, sorry, follow-up question. When you 18 to 20, those 2 years, were you as in Mormonism, but not fundamentalist, or were you still
I was still
fundamentalist
fundamentalist.
living independently?
So
Okay.
at that, for 18 to 20, I'm fundamentalist, but
Okay.
I've gone to the very diverse and wicked world of Cedar City, Utah,
Whoa.
where there's just
Debauchery.
I mean, you cannot believe,
Coffee shops everywhere.
dude, the number of knees that I saw and elbows, it was
Wait till
tantalizing.
I tell you about shoulders.
I saw a couple of clavicles and I was like, oh my God. I have to marry that person now.
This is how we untrace trauma, by the way, everyone. It's with humor.
It's with that's actually that's very true. That's like my whole brand.
That's your whole thing.
And so I'm there, and that at that point I've sort of stepped out of the fundamentalist Mormon world into the more mainstream LDS Mormon world, right? So I'm surrounded by, like, when most people think about
the crazy progressives.
I mean, literally, like I tell people this, and it's funny, and it's also sad, because I joined the LDS church, and that was a liberalizing effect on me.
I bet. Oh, right? I believe it.
And that, so just to sort of see the spaces, right, that to which the crazy can go. And so I was there at college for a couple of years, and then at 20 I decided that I was going to join the LDS.
Was this a Mormon college?
This was a Mormon college, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mormon college, and like I'm surrounded by everyone. At that point it was the most diverse set of friends that I'd ever had, and they were all white Mormons.
Yeah. Okay.
So
not relatable.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard when you're trying to get out and you're trying to
in Utah. Yeah, that's
in Utah. Like, you gotta really hunt for that stuff. And so then I was LDS for a while, and I left the LDS church in 2015. So after about 5 years, I was like, I don't think any of this is true. And that was then really when I kind of began my, what I would call like my trauma recovery journey, is that after I'd left Mormonism entirely, then I sort of had to grapple with the reality of my life and what was happening in it. Right. I had to like really look at, because at that point I'd been married. We'd had a couple of kids. I'd gotten a really great job at like this startup, and I'd worked myself to the top. So I was like the COO. I was running the company.
Wait, what age is this?
I'm probably like 27.
Okay. That's a lot in 27.
Well, I'd also started.
I'm like 32. I've never worked my way up to CEO of anything.
I also started working when I was 8. So
okay.
There's like, in some ways I'm in my 40s, right? But yeah, what happened is that I'm in this space. I've just left Mormonism, and I'm in this life that felt like it was everything that I'd ever wanted, right? And I wasn't shooting high, but like growing up on a compound, like I was living in like a shitty trailer with like the roof falling in, right? Yeah. So for me, like the pinnacle was like, if I could just get a house. And so at this point, I was in not my first, but my second house. Not that I had 2 houses, but I bought 1 house. Sure. And then I'd sold it and I'd upgraded to a even nicer house. And I was not happy. Mm-hmm. Like I just felt like I felt really empty. I felt really stuck. Mm-hmm. And I kind of had to ask myself, why?
Okay.
Like, what's going on? What is it about me, or about my orientation to life, or about like what's going on here? Because from the outside, I should feel happy, and I don't. And
at this point, was your wife was also LDS?
She had, so yeah, she was she'd been raised in kind of mainstream LDS, but we had both left the LDS church at the same time.
Okay, well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it were you kind of struggling with these questions and these deconstruction moments together in your relationship, or was this like a solo thing one of you brought to the other?
No, I think I kind of started a little bit earlier than she did, but we both eventually, like, it was a pretty mutual decision. We chatted about it a lot. We were very, and we were just like, what happened was our youngest child was born, and there's this ritual in Mormonism where you have to bless the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So all the dudes take the baby away from the mom, and they all go and they do their dude thing where they bless it with the power of the priesthood, so that it's now legitimate and worthy.
Yeah, you're a real boy now.
Now you're a real boy. And so we had to really ask ourselves, are we going to do that?
Yeah.
Right? And we'd been sort of deconstructing for a while, and we decided, we're not going to. But I think that was part of what sort of spurred this, right? Is that Mormonism is a complete worldview, right? It tells you how to think about the entire cosmos,
Yep.
how to think about every human on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and what will happen in your life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a path laid out for you. You get baptized, and then you go on a mission, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then like it's this whole, like, it's laid out for you.
Yeah,
So,
you have your milestones of how to be a perfect
how to be the perfect guy, right? How to
American Christian,
right? Yeah. How to propagate the good white race. Yeah, there's not racism. That's not a thing.
Not after the 70s, nah, they fixed it.
It's so weird. And so that's all kind of part of it, right? So I'm in this life. I'm not feeling the way that
You don't feel like, okay, I did the things. Where's the gratification?
Right, where's the thing? Like,
I should feel holy. I should feel special. I should
I
feel
be getting some fucking dopamine right now. Where's my
Yeah.
dopamine?
Right.
And it wasn't there. And it turned out it was because I was traumatized. And
What?
turns out, yeah, this has shocked me too. Traumatized people it's hard for them to create dopamine.
Yeah.
So it's
that
hard
makes
for you to
sense.
actually enjoy your life. So there was this moment where I'd kind of been in that space for a while, and I just kept feeling like this heaviness. And this was also about the same time where I started kind of opening up and kind of talking about telling stories from my childhood, and kind of like with friends and stuff. And because I'm a comedian at heart, right? Like, that's what I want to do, is make people laugh. And so I would tell people stories about what it was like to grow up on the continent that I thought were funny. and then the response was did not think they were funny. They were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?"
Can we get an example? Like, now, and I'm curious, what's a story that you would find funny in your childhood, but now you realize is like, oh,
Yeah, I mean, so the one that kind of comes to mind is that, and this is pretty intense. So, like, if like some trigger warnings here.
trigger warning.
But
Come back in 5.
when I was 9, at my 9th birthday party, I did like this little camp out, and my dad took me and my friends up to the mountains. And as a joke, while we were like all in the tent, he hung himself up in a tree with a hose, and he like ran the hose down his shirt and around his ankle, so it looked like he was hanging from a tree.
Okay.
And then like yelled, "Oh my God, what's happened? What are you doing?" And so we all kind of like walked out, and I found my dad like hanging from a tree. And then he was like, "Happy birthday." Isn't this a funny joke? And I was like, sure. That's a funny story. That's a funny joke.
It's a weird story, but what was his intent?
I mean,
like, what was was it literally just he thought it was a stupid prank, or was he trying to teach you a lesson about fear and loving your family? Okay.
Yeah, he was like, this will be funny. I mean, what I think really is going on is that he was depressed. Right? Like, he was severely depressed.
No, that makes sense.
And so he was like, "Oh, wouldn't this be Like, I
Could
don't
you
know.
imagine how funny would it be if I just drove right now? Wouldn't that be crazy?
Wouldn't that be crazy? If, like right here, just these little kids, they'll walk out, they'll think it's so funny. Yeah, I have no idea. I still don't, right? I've even asked my dad a couple times about that, and his response is still like, oh, I thought it would be funny. And so I'm like, you need some therapy.
Yeah.
So that's
Good
like
point.
that's one story, right? I
Yeah.
that, and people were like, oh my God. And then I was like,
Just being isolated and homeschooled without any outside perspectives, I think right there is enough to just be like trauma over, close the book, you're done,
right,
you win.
right. And that's like ground level, right? That doesn't
Yeah.
account for everything else. So I had this realization. I remember I was actually in Atlanta. I was at this conference. I was there with like my CEO. It was kind of like, it was a big deal. Like I felt like I'd kind of made it. And I just kept having that feeling. And then it just sort of like, I just was like walking through the halls, and it kind of clicked for me. And I was like, oh, I think I'm traumatized. I think that's what's going on. And so I Googled, I lived in St. George, Utah at the time. So I Googled St. George, Utah trauma therapist. And I found this lady come up. It was the first one. She had great reviews. So I called her up and I was like, hey, I need to come see you. I think I'm traumatized. And she's like, cool. She got me in, and I basically came in and I had a whole list. I was like, so I'm pretty sure that I know what's wrong with me. I am traumatized. Here's all the things that happened to me.
Love it.
Can you help me? And she was like, yes, we can do that. And so I started this. She did like EMDR work with me. She did psychosomatic work, which is basically like she would just sit across from me and ask me what I was feeling in my body. And I was like, bitch, I am paying you $175 an hour for you to ask how my body feels. I feel a little tingle in my shoulder. And it kind of moves down into my heart. Oh, right. And so about that kind of unlocked this period in my life where I spent about a year and a half doing really intensive work with her. And what started to happen is that my body kind of started to unlock, and I started to, in fact, I should show you I've got a picture I could share with you, because I've got like a picture of myself before that happened and after, and it's a totally different, like I look totally different because my whole body was locked up. It was tight. I was constrained. And then I just started shaking. So my whole body shook for months. I would at any point I could turn it off because I know how to dissociate. I'm a pro. So if I needed to, I would go to work, turn that shit off, do the work, do the things. And then every night I would go lay down in my closet and I would just shake uncontrollably for an hour or two. And it
feels so bad for you.
Well, what's lovely about it though is like that brought me back into myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There was just decades of trauma that had been just stored in my body. And I've just been holding on to it. Right. I've been holding on to it so tight. And so I just kind of shook it all out. And that was kind of a really big purge. So that was about a year and a half. And then I was kind of like, I think I'm done with the therapy for a little while. I'm just going to kind of ride this experience for a while. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that for a bit. And then after about a year or two, I was like, I think I'm ready to go back. And so I've just been kind of like continually going back and working on myself and just finding, like, because there's it's not just like the trauma, right? Like you get traumatized and you've got all of this stuff that you've got to purge, right? So you got to purge all that shit. But the fucking annoying thing is all that work only brings you up to zero.
Yeah. If that, because then there's the sideways things that would never have been a regular thing in your life had it not been for the trauma.
Right. Yeah. So there's like you get up to there, and then and that's where I feel like I'm at right now. Is now I'm learning how to be human, right?
That's
how to
awesome.
be in, like, how to set boundaries, how to insist on myself, right? How to have an identity that is me and then other people, right? And those were things that were stolen from me, right? I was robbed of that as a child in this world that told me that I only mattered if I was righteous, and I was only righteous if I followed this very specific list of things that were righteous to do.
You're making someone else's plan happen. You are not a person, but a tool.
You're a tool. Yeah.
In the plan of the prophet.
For that, right? And that is profoundly damaging to a psyche, right? Because what the message that it sends is, like, at our core, the most important thing where we all start is like, it's like our belly, right? Our hunger. It's our will and our ability to exist, right? And our demand to like eat and like take, right? Like, that's the first thing. And then once you have that, then you learn how to channel that shit into being nice to people and like taking care of your tribe and community because you're a part of something. But it's at that core of like, I fucking matter, right? That is hard to find when it's been taken from you, and when you find it, it's pretty fun. Because then
I'm happy you found it. It does sound fun. It sounds way better than the alternative. No, and I think that's so interesting that you talked about just even the visual representation that you can see in the change from the time of where you had no idea who you were and then reconnecting back with your body. Because it's something I've heard from many people who've left cults of different denominations, you know, and you talk about like the glassy eyes and the smiles and how no one who's currently in it even realizes that's how they look. And anyone who's looking for the signs can see it from the outside. Be like, y'all look robotic. And then when they do start going through that deconversion process and they start having some of this, you know, deconstruction, I guess, but unprogramming happening, they can look back at a picture and be like, that's not me. Like that eyes, what's going on here, not me.
Right.
It's so interesting because it really does show that the defense mechanisms that we build are, I would say, salacious, but they're necessary.
Right.
And they're just on a very physical level to start with. Even if you don't know there's an emotional pain happening, there's a physical change, and making yourself small is part of that.
These are so wise. Like, one of the things that I've been just so grateful to my body for is it's just brilliant ability to take all of this shit that's happening to me as a kid, right? I'm being forced to work 16-hour days in bakeries, right? Like, it's gnarly stuff. And my psyche and my body can't process that. I can't, right? And so it's like, so my body's like, no problem.
Clock out.
I'm going to grab all that stuff and I'm going to tuck it down here inside your left leg. And when you're 33, that'll come out again and you'll be able to deal with it then.
Oh, God.
And that's kind of magic. You know, it's
in a terrible, awful way. It's magic.
Way. It's our, I mean, we are so strong and powerful. We want to live and thrive so badly that, I mean, you can take someone, put them in the shittiest circumstances, and their bodies will find ways to adapt, to shelter, to armor, right? Everything, there was this moment in my healing where there were parts of me that I didn't like, right? There were parts of me that I was like, why do you do this, dude? Like, why is this the way that you are? That's a dumb thing to do, right? And then there came a moment where I realized, I was like, oh, at one point in my life, that was a really clever solution.
Right.
To a horrific problem.
Right.
And so, good job, little me.
And after it was affirmed to protect and keep you safe, it became part of your regular tool set.
Right. And so being able to sort of come to that with like acceptance and love and gratitude, and then say, and we don't
need it now.
Don't need you to do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're at like 50 minutes. I try to keep the show to an hour. Just because it makes things a little easier. But I want to go into like now that I know your general arc, I want to go into like your life story. And if anyone else does too, go follow all of Ben's socials. They're in the description of everywhere I post these things. But like, because I'm like, the stories that you must have as a kid. One final question from me, but if anyone in the chat has questions, please put them in the chat, Q&A for either Ben or myself. And we'll get to those here in the last few minutes. But my one last question is your family, like your dad or your mother's or siblings, are they still in the fundamentalist church, or have they since left because of you leaving?
So I, two other siblings have kind of followed me out to various degrees. One of them is
Two have how many? I don't think we got to count.
15.
15. Oof. Okay,
Yeah.
go on.
Which is not that like that's not that many.
that's one person family.
That's
usually
like
one
Catholic family.
That's one wife and one husband. Come on,
right. Like
do better.
Do better, Dad. And yeah, but the rest of them are like several of my sisters have been married into plural families. My parents are still very much in that. In fact, when COVID happened, my dad called me like when everything was shutting down, and I kind of like, I love him for this, and also it's like just an example of the world that he lives in. He was like there was almost a glee in his voice, like not like he was like excited that bad things were happening to people,
yeah,
but that he was exciting that it was finally happening.
Yeah, no, I've seen it all across my social media pages. Like, oh, we're in the end times.
Right.
I love it.
Which I think is because their life sucks.
Oh yeah, the drama of it is like a movie, and like now they have something to look forward to. Like, oh my God, everything's gonna burn. That's gonna be so much better than what I was gonna do on Tuesday.
Right. Go to church again. Yeah. So I mean, if you're in that boat, I would just advise you that before you get excited about the end of the world, go try being in the world for a little bit. Just like go to a Taco Tuesday and go to a karaoke bar.
Go to a play. Like, it doesn't even have to be a crazy play. Like, check out Shakespeare. That's pretty cool.
And just ask yourself, like, do I want more of this? Because you probably will. The world's actually great. But he called me up and he's like, just so you know, you're always welcome to come back to the ranch. Right? Well, you can.
So you're not like shunned for leaving, which is interesting. Or are you not talked to, but you can come back?
Right. So I can come back. Okay. And it's been the relationship with my family's been actually an interesting arc, and it's actually been really lovely because when I kind of initially left, and especially when I started doing like work on when I started delving into trauma, then I got really mad, right? And so at one point I called my parents together, and I was like, you guys, I am going to tell you some things that you probably don't want to hear, but I'm going to tell you them. You abused me as a child. Here are all of the ways that you did that. Here are all of the ways that has impacted me in my life right now. Here are all of the ways that I'm currently healing from that. I don't know if you're still doing this, if you're still acting in this way with my younger siblings, because I'm one of the oldest. Yeah. But if you are, stop. Like, don't do that anymore. And what was wild is that like they apologized.
Really?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm sure that went over well. No, but it actually did.
It actually did.
They heard it. They listened. Wow.
They heard it. They listened, and then that was kind of this moment where that was like the me, I matter, right? Like, fuck you. Yeah. Fuck you. Yeah. Right. And then after I was kind of in fuck you for a while, I was like, okay, but what do I want now? Like I actually want parents, right? Okay. I want to have
I was gonna say, totally fair if you didn't, though. If you were like, disconnect, okay, spoke my piece, bye.
Well, and
I would not judge you at all.
I'm out. But it's not even what it is it's not those parents necessarily, but I wanted a dad. Right? Like because my life is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to call my dad and be like, oh, Dad, today was fucking rough. And for him to be like, it's okay, champ. You got this, right? Like that's, I want to have that influence. I want to have that energy in my life. And so I was kind of in that space for a while. And then last year, I've been doing a bunch of wicked things. I have like a whole list. I'm trying to do all of them.
Oh, dope.
One of the things that I did last year is I went to Burning Man.
So jealous.
Which is the most wicked place. It is so amazing.
That's all I want.
I could talk about that for an entire other show. But while I was at Burning Man, I'm kind of walking around and I'm just experiencing. Burning Man to me is like it's like the most expressive of humanity.
Yeah.
Right? Like whatever it is, right? Whatever kind of expression wants to come out.
Just throw everything at the wall and see what makes.
Right. Yeah. And it's beautiful, right? It's over the top and it's crazy and it's stupid and it's weird and it's beautiful, right? It's so human. So I'm walking around this place and I just start feeling really sad because I'm there and I'm thinking about how like I'm having a blast. I'm having so much fun. And I'm like, I am probably the only member of my family who will ever do this. Like this is not an experience that I'll have with like a sibling or a father or like there's no that they wouldn't come to this place, right? If they were here, they would be like horrified. They would be like preaching like repent ye from every corner. Which actually hilarious.
I'm sure.
At some point at Burning Man, I do want to set up a tower and just like have a megaphone and just tell people to repent as they walk by me. Just be like, you need to repent and you need to repent.
That could be my performance piece. Thank you. I've been like, I never know what I would bring to,
there it is.
Bring to the festival. I will bring the gay Jesus repentance.
Gay Jesus repentance. Like call those heathens to repentance, right? So I'm walking around this place and
starting my email for next year's tickets.
I'm feeling sad and I'm kind of thinking about my dad. I'm kind of thinking about this feeling that I've been having for a while that I would like to have that influence in my life. And I look up and I see this huge sign over a tent. It's huge in big red letters and it just says free dad advice.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm like, God damn, the Playa provides. And so I just walk into this tent and I'm like, hey, I'm here for the dad advice. And this 65-year-old lady, she's like, come on over. She sits me down. She's been to like 25 burns. We talked for a little bit. And she's like, what kind of advice do you need? Like, what are you looking for? And I was like, well, I don't have a relationship with my dad. And sometimes I regret that. Sometimes I wish that I did. But then I also sometimes wonder if it's worth the effort, right? Is it even worth putting in the effort?
And is it healthy when you're trying to make yourself healthy and you don't want to go backwards?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I say that and she says, okay, so here's my advice. Grow up, call your dad, tell him that you want a dad figure in your life, and then tell him what's going on in your life and ask for his advice. And I was like, God damn, has it been that easy the whole time? I just had to
ask for him to show up and see if he shows up. And then we'll go from there.
Right? So I'm like jazzed. I'm like, oh, I'm going to fucking do it. So I'm like getting ready to leave. I'm like, I got my dad advice. And the lady's like, she's like, hold on. I'm like, tell me a little bit more. Like, tell me a little bit about your dad. And I say, oh, well, like he's a Mormon polygamist man. He has 3 wives and 15 kids. And I'm just really excited to put your advice into practice. And she says, oh, I changed my advice, and my advice now is you should give up.
Oof. I mean, both are options. I think you
Like,
should try both.
what she said was she's like, just don't be surprised
Yeah.
if when you do that, your dad can't show up for you the way that you want him to.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And I was like, I'm still gonna try it because I feel like if I do that, that will change something in me, right? I'll at least have resolved myself to that energy in my life.
Absolutely.
And I've shown up the best that I can, and that's all I can do. And so I can sort of put that to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I get back and I don't call him for a while. I'm gonna do it, but it's not happening. And then I get a call from him about 2 months later, and he's like, I'm gonna be in town. I want to take you out to lunch. And I'm like, sweet. I mean, this will be a great chance for us to talk about this thing that I want to talk about.
Sure.
And so he comes by and we go out to lunch, and he tells me he's like, I was chatting with your Uncle Cody, and he was telling me about a conversation that you guys had, and where you like really opened up to him, and you've never really done that with me, and that made me feel sad, and I realized that was because of me and how I've showed up, and I want to do better. Like I want to be available to you.
Okay, Dad.
I kind of had two thoughts, right? Is number one, I was like, you mean that 5-minute conversation I had with Cody 3 years ago?
I was gonna say, how deep in it were you getting with Cody in the first place? That's where I was surprised. I was like,
hey, how's it going? Right?
What did you tell Cody? Come out to Burning Man with me.
I was like, what's going on? And so I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I also have something to tell you. I went to Burning Man. I was on drugs the entire time, and I told him that whole story. And I said, I really want a dad in my life, right? And I want him to be someone who I can show up to as my real self, who can accept me in that, and can love me in that, and then can like help me out, right? Can kind of be a fucking dad. And I loved his response so much because it was so honest. And what he said was, he was like, I want to do that, and I know that there are things that you're going to do that are going to disappoint me.
Okay.
And I was like, fair, 100. Yeah. I guarantee you. I did 3
of the drugs on Burning Man. I got it.
Right? But he's like, I want to try. I want to try to be there for you. And so since then, I'm like, okay, now I've got a dad now. So now I just treat him like my dad. So if I'm feeling sad, I'll call him up and I'll be like, Dad, I'm feeling sad. And
that's awesome.
We'll talk about it. And I have to be real. He's not great at it yet.
No, probably not. He's been emotionally guarded his entire life, I'm sure, based on how he chose to raise his children.
Right. Right.
That just comes with the package. And unless he's in therapy doing the same work that you're doing, you're going to be on different emotional levels.
We're going to be on different emotional levels.
Yeah.
But I still have a dad, and everybody.
That's crazy. That is crazy, especially in the fundamentalist side of things. Like the horror stories you hear from people who have left and have deprogrammed and just all family ties are lost, and people who just won't even look at you again. So it's amazing. I think that right there is such a gift that you can just at least have, even if not understanding or support, you can have a connection still. Right. And you know how to, like you said, set boundaries finally. So that's amazing.
And I kind of know in my soul, right? I can't use the excuse of, I wish I had a dad anymore, right? Because I fucking do. Right. Now my dad is probably never going to be the first person that I call. Right. Because if I'm being honest, the kind of trouble that I'm going to likely get into, he would not know how to help me.
Sure.
Right. I need a couple of my friends who are kind of over here on the wicked side that could help me out with that shit. But it's nice to know that that's in my back pocket.
Yeah.
To just kind of know that he's at least acknowledged that I have that claim on him, and that he is willing to do what he can to show up for it.
That's so rad. Okay, I think that's a good note to wrap up the portion of talking.
Sweet.
Whatever people call that. Chat, do you have any questions? Because that was my question. So I got that out. I started a couple things I wanted to highlight. Oh, this is a good one. This is a question that came earlier in the chat. I missed some of the questions earlier in the chat, I think. But as someone in FLDS, did they call themselves Mormon? So like when you were in the compound area, did you just say like, oh, we're Mormon? Or did you have like a special word for it?
Generally, we didn't talk about ourselves very much, right? So we wouldn't identify as really anything to the outside world because we were like trying to keep it on the DL.
Sure.
And for I would say for most fundamentalist Mormons, we would usually think of ourselves as fundamentalist Mormons, and then Mormon would be members of the LDS Church.
Okay, so there'd still be like that separation.
It's a little bit of a separation there, yeah.
That's okay. That's good. That's good. This one popped up just because I thought it was funny. This is when we were talking about knocking on people's doors. Have you heard of gay?
Yes.
Gay. Okay.
Oh my god! And then what we could do is we could have like little rainbow like poppers. So we'd be like, and then I'd like tear away my outfit, and I would be wearing like a rainbow Speedo.
I'm here for all of it. I was gonna say glitter, but I don't want to pick it up, and I feel like people would sue us. You have a very good compliment here. I like Ben. He seems honest, genuine, down to earth, great sense of humor.
Thanks, Sparkling Dragon.
Yeah, very lovely, very lovely. And then we had a new question just come in, and I think this is a good one. This is a deep one, though. So now that you're a dad, how does it change your perspective?
So becoming a dad was a big part of healing for me, because I was able to sort of see my life through the lens of their experience, and that sort of put my experience into context.
Okay.
Where I was like, so as like when as they grew up and they started entering phases when I started to do things, and I would think about what I was doing when I was their age, and I was like, and I'd just be kind of like, oh, that's not what kids should be doing. Right. That's not a great space.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like, dredge up some painful stuff.
Yeah.
But also it was also this kind of really lovely opportunity to sort of kind of reparent myself in being a better parent to them. Right. So being able to kind of to I think we all didn't get the love that we needed, right? We all got dropped, and somewhere along the way. And so there's always kind of this part of you that I think feels unresolved, that feels like you didn't get enough, but being able to kind of sit with that part and then say, okay, how am I going to show up for my kids then?
Yeah.
Right. What am I going to do? To
the breaking of the cycle,
right? To do things differently, right? To show up differently, to be a different kind of, and that was actually a big part of what sort of made me feel like I wanted a dad, is seeing the way that I was being a dad to my kids.
I bet.
And being like, man, like because I know that at some point in all of their lives, there's something crazy is going to happen. And they're going to call me up, and they're going to be scared to talk to me about it. And I'm just going to be like, it's no problem. We'll just figure this out. Right. I'm just going to be there for them.
Right.
And I wanted that. Right. I want to feel that on the other end. So being,
I think that's a fair response.
Right. Like I think that's what you get.
I wanted to give a shout out to Jeannie. Thank you for the compliment, saying this channel is very loving, supportive, and very much educational. Much appreciated. And then let's say we have time for one more question. Oh wait, it moved. Where to go? Oh, there it is. From Sparkling Dragon. So we talked a lot about your father, but how's your relationship with your biological mother and or any of the other sister moms? How do you refer to them? I don't know.
Yeah, they'd be like my other mothers. Is that? so I have my biological mom, and then there are two others. One of them was only in the picture. Like, she married my dad later, and she was only around for like a year or two, and then she bailed.
Really?
So I don't really have any kind of relationship with her. My other mom, that relationship is rocky because she was quite cruel to me as a child. And there are like, I understand now as an adult, I know more about her life and the trauma and the suffering that she was experienced that made her kind of take that out on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not really my mom, so I don't know that I want to invest in a relationship with, like, that's kind of a relationship where I'm like, I don't need you in my life.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like, I don't hold you any ill will. I don't feel angry towards you anymore. But I'm not gonna, like,
I don't want to be best friends either.
Right. You're just not an important figure in my life.
Yeah.
But my mom, I have a pretty good relationship with, and it's been better since kind of the moment where, I think me kind of going to them and saying, this is what you did to me. It allowed me to really show up as myself. And then I just kept doing that. And it was kind of like a take it or leave it. Like, if this is me, and if you want to be in relationship with me, you're going to be in relationship with this.
That's good.
I think
so it was kind of like, it's kind of on par with your father's response then.
Right.
So they kind of came at it like a couple.
Yeah. And so, like, I'll do the same thing with where now I'll be like, if I have a hard day, I'll call my mom and I'll tell her about it. And again, it's like, she's learning.
Yeah. Right? Oh yeah.
And
sure.
And like, she's at my house right now. She's just down, like, she came down for the weekend. I had some things I had to go to. And so she hung out and watched my kids.
Spiking the water with caffeine, powder caffeine. Just
right.
Go crazy, Mom.
Oh, that would
don't do that. That's non-consensual.
That's non-consensual.
But funny. But funny. But it would be funny. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's like, that's a good, again, like, I've heard really bad horror stories with families not responding. So I'm glad that this piece of your life, this new life where you've been able to learn about yourself and your body and deconstruct from the trauma that was put on you that was never yours. I'm glad that in that process, your family's also getting to meet you and is also witnessing who you become. Because I think that's probably an important message that anyone who's out there as Jehovah's Witness, or I guess mainstream LDS who is able to, like, listen to these type of shows, remember that as a parent, that church might say to shun your children when they leave, but maybe you shouldn't, even if you stay.
So. Because, I mean, there's a Mormon polygamist man who didn't, right?
Yeah, so, if the fundamentalist Mormon polygamist man.
The fundamentalist Mormon polygamist man can accept this heathen as his son,
you can do it too.
You can chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would maybe also say to the person, to the child, right? To the person who's maybe felt that shunning or that ostracization from family and parents. I think the advice that I would have for them is always insist on yourself, right? Yeah. Never surrender that, because that is the only way that they will ever be able to truly be in relationship with you, and challenge them on it, right? So if you really do want a relationship with these people, call them out on their crap, right? Mm-hmm. Dad, when you don't talk to me because I left your religion, it makes me feel like you don't care about me. And that makes me feel sad and lonely and isolated.
I love that. Not the sad and lonely, isolated.
Right,
I love that tool right there. That yes,
in and like really engage, right? It's kind of what we're coming back full circle to what we were talking about earlier, right? Like I think when we deconstruct or when we leave religion, it's often very easy for us to kind of just like want to disappear. Like, oh, I'm just gonna, like, because it's just there's this label of if you leave, you're bad, right? And we don't want to be seen as bad, and so we just kind of disappear. And what I would say is, don't fucking disappear. Like, you deserve to be here too, and force your family to grapple with the reality of you.
Love me. Love me.
Right.
Okay, last question, I guess, to wrap it up is, do you have anything coming up? What do you want to plug?
I do, yeah. So
people.
I'm very excited because I started doing, I did my first open mic just over 2 years ago, or just under 2 years ago, so 2 years in May.
Nice.
And I have my very first headlining gig at the premier, like the top Utah comedy club. It's called Wise Guys in Salt Lake. So if any listeners are in the Salt Lake area, March 26th, I'm going to headline, and it's going to be, I'm super excited.
That's sick. Okay. March 26th, Wise Guys in Salt Lake, Utah. I like it. I'm not going to be there probably, but I love that for you.
I love that for me too.
I will check in to see how it goes though.
Yeah.
And then for all the rest of my listeners, I just launched Patreon, I think 2 weeks ago now. So now we have Patreon as an option if you want to go ahead and sign up. We have just 2 basic tiers, and the most expensive one is $5 for Discord access. So if you want to continue the talk, you can chat with me over there. And then now that we are on all the podcast platforms, if that's how you prefer to listen, just make sure that you are rating. And then for YouTube, do the like and the subscribe, and then come back next week. That would be cool, I guess, if you want to hear a whole bunch of other news stories that are still related in trauma and religion, but with amazing people like Ben. And thank you again, Ben, for coming on. I will definitely try to have you back on sometime, because I want to dive deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for just the lovely conversation, and I would love to come back on.
Amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.